the breakdown, it's really appalling in Canada, the breakdown of our rights, let's say, for mobility, for freedom of speech, etc. It's particularly grating to me in the Canadian context because way back in the 80s, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, our current Prime Minister's father, who was quite an intellectual, he was very enamored of French civil law, and he grafted a Bill of Rights on top of the Canadian federal common law structure, essentially. And I didn't like that at all. I thought that was a bastardization of a great English common law tradition. I'm not a fan of bills of rights because they're predicated on the idea that you have a finite set of rights and that the social contract awards them to you or the government. And I think that's backwards. It's like, you have all the rights there are, except those that are expressly forbidden by detailed legislation that mostly was generated from the bottom up. That's the English common law tradition. Anyways, everybody celebrated the Bill of Rights. Aren't you protected? Oh my God, all our rights are protected now forever. You know, it was Pierre Trudeau's major accomplishment, hypothetically. Now we have his son, and it's like, yeah, what's it good for? My father isn't vaccinated. He decided not to, partly because they were telling him he had to. And he has his other reasons. I have family members who aren't vaccinated for health reasons, who also had COVID twice and didn't really feel they needed to be vaccinated again. In any case, it's extraordinarily annoying to see this happening. And to then find out that there's nothing behind it except like the most instrumental and cowardly random polling is extremely disheartening and also maddening and also angering, all of those things at once.
Do you think it's possible that the polling is out of whack too? I mean, you've been doing polling forever, right? I mean, this is one of the things.
Of course, it's out of whack. Jesus Christ, you know, I mean, how do you get accurate polling data? Well, okay, over what time frame? You're going to poll every day? How about every hour? How about every minute? Every week? Every 2 weeks? Who answers the phone calls when you do the polls? How did you construct the questions? Are you eliciting a particular kind of answer because you paid insufficient attention to the way the question was posed? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's not guidance from the polls. It's a quasi-informed random walk, which is a lot easier than thinking it through. But to see that happening in spite of the much vaunted protection for our rights, like, you know, Canadians who aren't vaccinated now cannot leave the country. Yeah. Like, what the hell? Why is that? And look, I got vaccinated and people took me to task for that. And I thought, all right, I'll get the damn vaccine. Here's the deal, guys. I'll get the vaccine. You fucking leave me alone. And did that work? No. So stupid me. You know, that's how I feel about it. It's like, well, now I have to get tested for COVID when I come back into Canada. I have to get tested before I leave Canada. Now, you know, that might be the latter issue. That's an issue with the Americans. And so that's outside of the Canadian purview. But the restrictions to get back into Canada are even more stringent. It's like, well, why to get the vaccine then if you're not going to leave me alone? And I don't think the evidence that unvaccinated or that vaccinated people are less contagious, let's say, I don't think it's very compelling.
Yeah.
So why are the unvaccinated all of a sudden a danger? And I certainly don't understand the push to get children vaccinated. I think that's absolutely reprehensible. And I also can't figure out, Norman Deutsch wrote a piece in Tablet called Needle Points. And one of the things he pointed out was that if you take the top 25 least trusted institutions, in that group, the most distrusted institutions include Big Pharma. Mm-hmm. And for good reason. And he details out the lawsuits that Big Pharma has had to pay because of misbehavior on their part, broadly speaking, multiple companies over the last 20 years. And they're the biggest lawsuits in American history, which is really saying something because your court system is set up so that big lawsuits are really possible.
Right.
And so I see the leftists, all of a sudden, it's like Big Pharma. Yeah, trust them. It's like, what? What? Really? You guys? I don't understand that at all. Like, and psychologically, so what's going on here? It's like, well, I think the underlying phenomenon is something like, well, as long as it's for health and safety, it's always good. And not to get conspiratorial here, but the same damn thing is going to happen with the climate change push.
Absolutely.
They're already it's already being reconfigured as, well, it's the biggest public health issue of our time. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think overreaching bureaucrats are the biggest health, what would you say, the biggest challenge to our health of our time.